Alrighty, good afternoon and welcome to the Cannabis World Congress and Business Expo live stream, where we are bringing you the latest and greatest for the industry every week, Thursdays at 4 p.m., and we will have you on your way by 4:20. I'm Gretchen Gailey, the Chief Strategy Officer for the CWCB Expo, and I'll be talking with industry experts, influencers, and a few cannabis OGs with a focus on the burgeoning New York market. This week, I'm speaking with Arnaud Dumas de Rauly, the CEO of the Blinc Group, a vape technology firm who helps clients realize their vape tech dreams from concept to the store shelf. Good afternoon, Arnaud. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and the Blinc Group?
Hey, Gretchen, thank you very much for having me, and very, very happy to be an advisory board member of Cannabis World Congress as well, especially here in New York, where it's definitely needed. A little bit more about myself. Been in the vaping space since 2009. I basically quit smoking thanks to vaping, and have worked on a whole bunch of lobbying issues, a whole bunch of regulatory issues linked to nicotine vaping. And when I moved to the US in 2015, I just realized that a lot of people were using cannabis vaping products with, or nicotine vaping hardware with cannabis. And that just doesn't match because cannabis is a lipid. It's not water-based like nicotine vapes. So that got me thinking a little bit about how to develop products specific for lipids, and that's where I met my two co-founders, and we decided to create the Blinc Group in 2017. Throughout that entire process, I was nominated as chairman of the ISO standards for vaping products and chairman of the European Commission for vaping products. So again, still heavily involved on the regulatory aspect. And with the Blinc Group, we actually manufacture vaping hardware. And probably the safest and most quality-oriented hardware out there, because we are the only ones that control the whole supply chain.
All right, fantastic. Speaking about the Blinc Group, you all were recently just involved in a court case that had to do with some vape patent technology disputes. Can you give us a little bit more background on that whole thing and what the outcome was?
So this actually happened in the International Trade Commission, the ITC, which is an American court that is made to protect American businesses. Basically, to have a case in the ITC, you need to prove domestic industry, and you need to prove infringement on patents. There's no monies involved here, aside from the cost of the lawyers, of course. But what could have happened is an exclusion order, where basically Customs and Border Patrol get a letter from the ITC saying, all of these types of products, you got to block them at the border. They are not allowed to be imported. C-Cell, which is manufactured by Smoore in China, decided to instigate a court action at the ITC against 38 vape companies, basically the entire US industry, alleging that their patents were being infringed on, and that the products that were being imported shouldn't be imported. This was back in October 2021. The ITC is very streamlined. It's 16 months, sorry, no more. And it can't go on and on and on like district court cases. And so what happened here is it's been 16 months, and we were deemed non-infringing, but most importantly, due to our aggressive defense with our friends at List and Abramson, we have been able to invalidate C-Cell's patents, which I believe goes to show that although they're a historical player in the industry, they do not have their ducks in a row in terms of quality and safety.
What do you think that this really means for the vape space?
I would say the first thing it means is that cannabis vaping processors have more choice now. If C-Cell had won this case, basically all the other named respondents, the rest of the industry, in terms of hardware manufacturing, would have been banned from import. So This is typically what companies would do to try and gain a monopoly, or just to slow competition down for a while. And these lawsuits cost a lot. So I'm very happy to say that in the end, there were only three of us, and the Blinc Group is the only group that has not been sued in district court as well. All the other respondents, even though the ITC is done, are still being sued in district court.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the technology, the patent that they said you were infringing upon?
So this technology, it's there were two patents. There was the 623, which was their main patent, is a patent that involves a center post. So basically, any device with a center post, they claimed was covered by this patent, including nicotine vapes. So the fact that this case popped up on the radar was also a little bit of a nudge for us to develop some other hardware that potentially doesn't have the center post, like the Simple that we just launched. So it was kind of a kick in the butt to work on some new products. But we also knew from the start that there was zero infringement. And that's why we were so aggressive in our defense in pushing this patent and in validating it.
Would you have considered this court case to be malicious, or do you look at it as almost suspect when you bring up the nicotine industry, that perhaps they were testing the waters to go after something bigger in the future?
Well, again, this is only my personal opinion, not at all the company's opinion or a legal opinion. But I do think that all of these big manufacturers in China, their biggest dream is to get bought out by a big tobacco company. And so I believe this was for them twofold. Number one, a way to test their patents against, I would say, smaller players with pockets that aren't so deep like the tobacco industry. And number two, to basically have all the competition just spend so much time, money, and energy on this to prevent us from doing our regular course of business, which is providing quality hardware to our clients. That said, this case is, I believe, the beginning of a lot more cases we're going to be seeing in the industry. This is a nascent industry. I've been in nascent industries before, looking at nicotine vaping, and lawsuits are bound to happen all over the place, especially in this country. And I'm not saying this because I'm French, but you can literally sue for anything here.
One point that you brought up is, and we all know this, that all of vape hardware is made over in China. Well, what is a U.S. processor brand? What are they supposed to do when they're trying to determine what is the best hardware or company for them to go with? How can they safeguard their investment, because they're dealing with an entity that they really have no control over?
Well, that's the thing. It's understanding your supply chain, and that goes through due diligence. You need to be working on a lot of due diligence when you're selecting a supplier. And this is not just, oh, I have a friend who uses this product and it works very well. This goes all the way to understanding what the raw materials that are in your hardware come from, what they are. Is there research on them? As an example, we're able to provide FDA Title 21 CFR and CPG reports on a lot of the ingredients that we have, GRAS certificates, and that can only come with controlling the supply chain. One of the other things that is doable is understand what are the services that you're getting with that supplier. Obviously, if you go direct to a manufacturer, you're not going to have the customer service you want. As you can see behind me, we just launched a service trying to answer our clients' pain points. This one in specific is up to 5 months financing for any vape hardware you're buying from us. And we have a 96.8% approval rate for cannabis businesses on our platform. So I think that's very, very important to suss out when you're looking at a couple of different options for suppliers. There's other programs like, do you have stateside inventory? Is there some sort of vendor managed inventory program for some of these bigger MSOs and bigger brands that don't necessarily have the manpower or the warehouse power to store product for the entire year and would rather just draw down on an available stock every month?
Is there any possibility of the vape sector, of the manufacturing of it, coming back to the U.S. or coming to the U.S. at all?
I think there is. So we did a little bit of research. This was 3 or 4 years ago, and a little bit of modeling to understand how we can do this. If we're looking just at, for instance, the cartridges, the way they are today, they're all handmade in China. Literally every single coil is handmade by what you call master coilers on the whole production line. And there is a potential way to automate that, but it's going to cost a lot and it's going to take 6 months to a year to implement. That said, once implemented in the US, we've calculated that we would need to sell 5 million cartridges at roughly $4 a piece for American-made cartridges to start breaking even on a monthly basis for a year. I don't know if you realize what that is, but 5 million cartridges a month is huge. It's really, really big. And at $4 a cartridge, cartridges today with the highest customization possible are what, $2, $2.20? And given the times in cannabis right now, no one's going to be willing to pay 2 times more for a cartridge. So that said, there are different ways to do this. We have the ring system with that little branding ring on the top that's removable. That ring, we're actually finalizing the process of being able to print that locally here. So basically, we would be able to sell one SKU to a company that has 3 different flavors, for instance, and they would be able to brand them on the fly during the filling process. But they're only purchasing one SKU. So all again, the objective of this is to figure out how to help our clients and address their pain points. And I think that is one of them. Those rings would be able to be manufactured here in the U.S. and customized here in the U.S.
So, and we've been talking, we have a focus on the New York market because, of course, that's where CWCBE will be this June, and is in every year in June. A number of companies, a number of brands are getting started now in the New York market. What advice would you have to them if they're interested in going into the vape space and really don't know where to begin to get their brand set up?
Well, I think you have to distinguish the different types of brands that could be sold here. So it could be an out-of-state brand, which would need to be manufactured by a New York processor. And it can be someone opening up a dispensary who just needs the ancillary products of hardware, like batteries like these and stuff like that. So if we're talking processor, I think the biggest thing to do is to find a proper processor. There's not a lot here in New York, but and some of them are very specialized. Some of these processors are specialized in beverage, the others in gummies, the others in extracts. I think it's very, very important to do some good due diligence there. Second is these dispensaries. Now, with the TPI clause, the true person of interest, it's a little bit tricky because these dispensaries are not allowed to have their own brands. So you can't. Housing Works, for instance, the first dispensary that opened, is not allowed to have a Housing Works brand of distillate cartridges. They can only work with these processors' brands or brands distributed by these processors. That said, when we're talking about ancillary product, there's ways to do this. And there's also ways around it by bringing in outside brands. For instance, you could bring in our case, a Blinc branded battery, and that would work. So it's really important to navigate these issues. And I'm pretty sure in the next couple of months, we're going to see those that TPI clause be modified in certain ways, because it makes absolutely no sense today for a dispensary not to be able to sell their own branded batteries.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another big issue in vape is people are often concerned about knowing what's actually in the product. And then a few years ago, we had the big vape scare where a number of folks had purchased things from the illicit market, got very sick. Some even died. Um, how do we move forward from that? Learn from that, and how do you avoid that type of thing moving forward in the New York market?
I think testing is one of the biggest things. Everyone's afraid of testing because it's too burdensome or it represents a big financial overhead. But that's the only way we're going to get safe products. I mean, we got to face it. As an industry, we don't have enough research on cannabis, on all the cannabinoids, on all the terpenes. But the research that we do have points to some very specific testing that needs to be done in order to provide the safest possible cannabis vape to consumers. And in that respect, if we take the example of New York right now, the testing for adult use is a lot lower. The bar is set a lot lower than testing for medical. That to me is a big no-no. We should have the same testing standards because it's the same people who are going to put these in their lungs. And that leads me to the second point, especially when it comes to cannabis vaping. The labs keep on testing the oil that's inside, but what we really need to test is the vapor that comes out. Colorado started doing this very, very well with emissions testing. And yeah, it was off to a little bit of a rocky start because labs need to get adjusted and learn what it is to capture aerosol from these devices. But now that all of that is done and has been done in nicotine vaping now for over 15 years, and previously in smoking, in tobacco testing. So these protocols and these devices already exist. We need to use them more. And I believe that it's only when we're able to do that and using standards and reproducible standards that will provide reproducible results across the board that we'll see a lot more safe products come out there. In the meantime, the illicit market, there was a little study that was done here in New York a few months ago. I mean, some people found salmonella or E. coli in the products that were bought on the illicit market. Unfortunately, just down the street here, there's 3 bodegas or 3 C stores where I could literally go buy any product. A lot of them come directly from Colorado or California and are legitimate products, but have been packaged a year ago. So we don't know what happened during transport. And we all know that THC reacts very strongly to differences in humidity, in temperature, and all of that can happen during transportation.
Arnaud, I see that we are coming up on 420. Do you have any last parting thoughts for New Yorkers or for the vape market in general?
I just can't wait to see everyone June 1st to June 3rd at Cannabis World Congress. I think it's a great venue. It's a great team, and it is the place where deals get done, and very big deals. So thank you very much for having me, and looking forward to anyone here. If anyone's in New York, find me on LinkedIn and ping me. I'd be happy to go have a drink or lunch with you.
Arnaud, thank you so much for joining us on our first CWCBE live stream. And I invite all of you to tune in next Thursday at 4 o'clock to see our next industry expert and come out, just like Arnaud said, and join us in June at the Javits Center in person. Enjoy your 420.
Thank you. Happy 420, everyone.